Boruto episode 73, The Other Side of the Moon. So this episode, continuing on with basically the Sasuke retrieval arc remix, we have Boruto and Saradda, of course, going to Orochimaru to try to get some information on Mitsuki and, what extra content they could possibly kind of gather from the snake, saying, it's basically this is my will. Are there any other things that we can learn from the snake? So, of course, they go to Orochimaru. Pretty good episode. All in all, I still enjoyed this one. Of course, like I mentioned, I was joking, of course, but it does, I mentioned even in my last review, it made me think of the Sasuke retrieval arc. You have the character, he's similar to Sasuke, he's like a decent blend between Sasuke and Sai, I would say. And, he's taken off, of course, he still is involved with Orochimaru, so it brings up a lot of those familiar connotations, but the spirit behind it all is totally different. Like, it's his choice to leave, but it's in order to find out who he is rather than I want to get more power so I can beat Itachi, which admittedly led to some great content because that was one of my favorite arcs. But in this case, it's a more emotional development compared to, well, this is a cool action arc. It has some emotional moments in here because it gives, cool epic elements to all the guy characters that kind of did nothing. So in this case, it's like, Boruto and Saradda are kind of just going forward and figuring out who is this person that was their friend. They even have it with Konohamaru, which they had a great scene, and I was hoping that we would, of course, get that, because it's like, this is, Mitsuki is the son of the man that killed Konohamaru's grandfather, so, excuse me, it's one of those elements where it's like that, of course, that has to come up, like, everyone hates Orochimaru, like, across the board, but some people are a bit more attached to the said hatred than others, and I would think probably Konohamaru and Tsunade are like, the top two in the village for that. So I was glad we had that moment. Of course, it was a smaller moment, but I still enjoyed that scene where, Konohamaru says, like, why didn't you tell me that Mitsuki was Orochimaru's son beforehand? And Naruto even says, like, would you have done anything differently? And he kind of just pauses because he doesn't have the instant answer. Like, yeah, I would have been, I would have been different, or I would have been exactly the same. And I like that scene because it's like, well, if I told you this, then it would have changed the way you saw Mitsuki. Like, I wanted you to basically just accept him as a shinobi of the village without all of that hatred, getting in the way. And, even calls Konohamaru out on it. It's like, despite the fact that Orochimaru may be your sworn enemy, that doesn't mean you get to hate his son. And Konohamaru, of course, says, like, I know that, but if it were in the moment, if he didn't know that stuff, obviously it would have been very, very different because it's Orochimaru's son. Like, this is the son of the person that killed my grandfather. So definitely a good moment. Like I said, a small scene, but I really enjoyed it. And, Shikamaru comes in and is like, that there is, no place for emotion, during mission. So, of course, he's not allowed to go. But they end up sending Shikadai, Chocho, and Inojin as well, Team Moegi. I don't remember the number, so, they send that team out, so they're the ones sent out to stop them, which we see at the end of the episode. But all in all, it was fun. We got to see Karin come back, so I thought that was pretty cool, even though it was a small little thing. I was really surprised with the way they had her small storyline go, where she comes in, saves Sadara, and Sadara's like, oh, it's you. And she's like, oh, she talks about her glasses and stuff like that. And it's like, you go ahead, Boruto's waiting, I'll deal with Yamato. And I was thinking, like, Yamato has, like, ultimate, let's face it, he's got plot armor jutsu. Like, he literally has the Senju DNA jutsu. And it's just like, that's about as plot armory as it gets. I was just surprised. I was like, he lost. Like, watch the last however many episodes of the series, the last, like, 3 seasons, and all of it's just like, Senju, Senju, Senju. That's the joke of the end of the series. It's like, Senju DNA is just like, you got it. You win automatically, or you come back to life if you lose. And I was just like, he lost. Like, he just naturally lost. Like, they chased him down. Or thinking they were chasing Mitsuki. They were chasing him down. And then, of course, it's Karin, and they're like, what the heck? Like, what is all this crap? And then they still don't end up, catching her. And it was just like, man, they kind of suck. And she just did a smoke bomb. It wasn't even that big of a thing. She just threw, like, a really big smoke bomb and took off. And I was like, this dude, like, when he first showed up, Yamato was super cool to me. I always thought he was sweet. And it was just like, man, they did it even in the end of the series of Shippuden with him being captured and he was just, like, gone for the whole war. And it was like, that sucks. And he's, once again, the Senju DNA stuff. It was like, he's the reason for all of this and that. So it was just really funny watching that because I'm like, his whole thing was like, I have the wood style jutsu and I can do this, and it calms Naruto down when he goes into cloak mode. That was literally like a part of the storyline where he was like, my wood jutsu calms him down. And I'm just like, and he just lost. And it's just Karin. Like, her special skill is literally bite me and heal. It's that. And so I was just like, man, they just kind of nerfed him so bad. It was just funny to me, but enjoyed what we got to see. Orochimaru does this thing where he's really weird and vague and this and that, and he doesn't give them real answers, and it's like, I can't do this. And then at the very end, it's like, there's nothing to be found, but the will of the snake might have more, or the thoughts could have more if you listen. And I was just like, I don't even know what the heck that means. It just sounded dumb. But it was basically, I can't help you, and there's nothing else to be found, but there's something else to be found. And he sends them on their way, and I was just super confused. And then in the promo, it's like Shikadai's listening to the snake, and I'm like, is it, he could just be listening to it actually saying like, this is my will or whatever. But it was just interesting. I was like, what in the world is going on with this snake? Like, is it gonna say more stuff? Is it, like I said, the actions behind it? And I thought Orochimaru meant the fact that Mitsuki left the snake behind to begin with was the thought behind the action. Like, the words are just, this is my will, but the fact that he left the snake behind was the thought behind said action. That's what I thought he was getting at. And then it seemed like he was very literal. Like, sometimes the thoughts can say more than the words. And I'm like, listen to the snake. And then I was just confused again because I was like, I thought he was going to go into like the actions behind the snake being left. And it was like, nope, just literally listen more to the snake or whatever. So we'll see it in the next episode. But I thought I knew where it was going. And then it ended and I was like, I'm confused again with the way he kind of explained it. So it was funny, but of course, they take off, everything's fine, but, Boruto and Saradda aren't busted, so they head off, and then that's when they run into Moegi's team, and that's, of course, where we end the episode, but still enjoyed it. The heartfelt moments of this I thought were really good. Boruto and Saradda finding out about the clone stuff, and also finding out that if, Mitsuki is discovered, basically has a curse mark that will kill him, he'll self-destruct and die, so I was like, well, that is very interesting, which I assume is what would have happened if he went into Sage mode around everyone in the village. It would have, it would have killed him. It wouldn't have just been like, oh, sorry, we're busted. The experiment would have ended because he would have died. So I was like, well, that changes that idea. I thought they would have just been busted a little, and then I was like, no, he would have self-destructed if everyone found out he had Sage mode, which was really interesting because I'm like, so how does that work? Just like, every person that's allowed to know is like on a checklist. It was almost like a technology thing, like, the curse mark won't activate if it's Kakashi or this person or this person, but if that person finds out, he'll self-destruct. So I was like, I'm very curious how in the world that's supposed to work. Like, the curse mark knows who is and is not supposed to know. So maybe it's attached to, there's a bunch of ninja science. It could be attached to Mitsuki's emotions or whatever random crap. But either way, I thought that was interesting, especially considering I assume Mitsuki's not going to die, so I don't know if that'll ever come back as a thing where it's like, oh, he has this self-destruct, but, they find a way to stop it because he's found his will, and some, Boruto, Naruto type storylines, shonen storyline, really. But I am looking forward to where we're headed. I still enjoyed this episode. Currently what we're in is technically filler. This isn't manga stuff like some of the people in the comments that I was reading. They mentioned that this wasn't actually in the manga, but it is being looked over by the actual manga creator at this point, the director. So, it's definitely going to hopefully gel perfectly into the normal storylines. Like, once we get there, for people like myself who haven't read ahead yet, it'll still kind of blend in perfectly once we get to the next official arc that is within the manga. So I'm very curious what answers we have. The fact that Orochimaru is not involved in any way, shape, or form just makes me even more curious. Like, how long has Mitsuki been involved with these other people? What's going on there? Like, like the whole point of this episode, or I guess, one of the answers that comes from this episode is the fact that Orochimaru didn't know. And that was kind of my big suspicion. It was like, well, if it's not Orochimaru, then what the heck is the answer here? Like, these people literally just showed up out of nowhere, and for whatever reason, Mitsuki decided to join them. So unless he thinks they were so powerful they could have possibly taken out, Naruto, I'm just curious, like, where did they come from? What's the deal? How did they convince him? If they have no attachment to Orochimaru, how did they end up getting an attachment to Mitsuki? Was it just like from him leaving that experiment with Orochimaru and his clone going to the village? Did he just get caught in the middle and was like, oh yeah, I'll join you guys in like, 2 months or 3 months or something. Once I bond with these people, yeah, I'll just join up with you and leave again. Because they didn't attack the village. He just left. They fought the guards and then they left, and nothing's happened. Unless, we find out later that they did steal something. At this point, it's just like, well, he could have just disappeared without any of the fighting. So, once again, random questions in my head where I'm like, how does this make any sense? So, hopefully we get some good answers, but either way, still enjoying what we have so far. Naturally, I would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And of course, with the next episode focusing on Boruto and Saradda facing off against Moegi and her team, I would love to know how you guys think that'll play out and what the answer is to, I guess the snake's extra thoughts or whatever, like what's going to happen next. So we'd love to know what you guys think, the storyline is headed towards. And like I said, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.